I thought I was walking into my own bedroom. Instead, I walked into a trap that had been 18 months in the making. My wife Sarah was there with my best friend Marcus. And when she saw me standing in the doorway, she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't even try to cover herself. She smiled and said the 4 words that destroyed everything.
We need to talk.
What I discovered next wasn't just an affair. It was a conspiracy involving federal crimes, political corruption, and a revenge plot so calculated it would make your blood run cold. And by the end of this story, I wasn't the victim anymore.
Before I tell you how I turned their betrayal into their worst nightmare, hit that subscribe button, because what happens next will leave you questioning everyone you trust. Let me rewind 6 months. Sarah and I had been married for 8 years, not the passionate whirlwind kind, but the steady, comfortable love that grows roots. We'd weathered layoffs, miscarriages, her mother's illness. We were solid, unshakable. Marcus was my business partner, my college roommate, the best man at our wedding. He'd been coming around more often lately, helping Sarah with house projects while I traveled. I'd even joked about it. Careful, honey, people might think you married the wrong guy. Her laughter then should have sounded different to my ears. Hollow, rehearsed. The night I walked in, that smile of hers wasn't guilt or shock, it was relief. Pure, unburdened relief. Like a mask finally sliding off her face. "David," she said, not moving from Marcus's embrace, "we need to talk." Marcus wouldn't meet my eyes. His shoulders curved inward, collapsing under invisible weight. But Sarah? Sarah looked more alive than I'd seen her in years. How long? The words scraped out of me like broken glass. 18 months, she answered without hesitation. No tears, no apologies. Just facts delivered with surgical precision. 18 months. I did the math backwards through memory, family dinners where Marcus lingered, weekend projects that ran suspiciously long, Sarah's new perfume, her sudden interest in yoga classes that apparently didn't exist, the pregnancy scare last winter. I asked, though part of me already knew. Her nod felt like a physical blow. We hoped it was yours. The room tilted. Every shared moment of worry and hope over that possible child, the late night talks about baby names, the careful way I'd held her when the test came back negative, all of it poisoned in retrospect. Marcus finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Dave, I never meant for this to what? To get caught." "Both," Sarah answered for him. "He never meant either to happen." "But David," she sat up straighter, pulling the sheet around herself with an odd kind of dignity. "Neither did I. And I'm not sorry anymore." The honesty was more brutal than any lie could have been. "There's more," Sarah continued, and something in her tone made my blood freeze. "The business. The contracts you've been landing so easily this past year." My stomach dropped. Our company had been struggling until suddenly, miraculously, we'd started winning bids left and right. Contracts that should have gone to bigger firms somehow fell into our laps. "My father," she said simply. Sarah's father, Senator Richard Blackwood, who'd always treated me with polite distance, who I'd assumed merely tolerated his daughter's choice in husbands. He's been steering contracts our way, through Marcus. They've been meeting for months, planning this transition. The betrayal had layers I was still uncovering. Not just my wife, not just my best friend, but my entire livelihood built on foundations of deception. "The divorce papers are already drawn up," she continued with that same terrible honesty. "You'll get half of everything, minus the business, that stays with Marcus. It's cleaner this way. Cleaner. As if 8 years of marriage were a spill to be mopped up. And if I fight it?" Marcus finally lifted his head. "The senator has photos, Dave, from that conference in Chicago. The one where I got drunk and made a fool of myself. I remembered that night in fragments, too much whiskey, a pretty reporter who'd flirted with me at the hotel bar. I'd walked her to her room, nothing more, but in a photograph. Your choice, Sarah said. Clean divorce, comfortable settlement, and Marcus takes over the business partnerships. Or we drag this through courts and public scandal. I stood there, absorbing the magnitude of their orchestrated betrayal, and something shifted inside me. The shock was crystallizing into something harder, sharper. You're right, I said finally. This is cleaner. Sarah's smile widened, victory dancing in her eyes. Just one question. Marcus, those contracts, the Henderson account, the city planning deal, you kept copies of all the correspondence with Senator Blackwood, right? His face went pale. What correspondence? We only talked on the phone and mostly through intermediaries, no paper trail, I mused. Smart. Except for one thing. I pulled out my phone, opened the recording app that had been running since I'd walked into the room. 18 minutes of confession, conspiracy, and federal corruption laid out in their own voices. Sarah, your father's political career just became a liability instead of an asset. And Marcus, I met his eyes for the first time. Most contracts were never legally binding without proper bidding processes. The FBI takes bid rigging very seriously. The color drained from both their faces. So here's my counteroffer. I keep the house, I keep the business, and you both disappear from my life. Quietly, permanently, and maybe I don't send this recording to the FBI's public corruption unit. 6 months later, I'm sitting in the kitchen Sarah and I once shared, watching sunrise paint the walls gold. The divorce was finalized last week, on my terms. Marcus fled to his brother's place in Oregon. Sarah moved to her father's D.C. townhouse, where they're both waiting to see if scandal will follow. The business is mine now, rebuilt on legitimate contracts and honest work. It's smaller, but it's real. The house feels different, not empty, but clean. Like a wound that's finally stopped bleeding and started healing. I've learned something about betrayal. It's not just about what people take from you. It's about what they reveal about themselves. Sarah wasn't the woman I thought I'd married. She was someone capable of 18 months of calculated deception. Marcus wasn't the friend I trusted with my life. He was someone who could smile at my dinner table while destroying everything I'd built. But the most important revelation was about myself. I was stronger than I'd ever known. Strong enough to survive their betrayal, smart enough to turn their trap against them, and wise enough to realize that sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be destroyed. Some mornings, I still hear phantom footsteps on the stairs. But they're not ghosts of betrayal anymore. They're echoes of the man I used to be, the one who trusted too easily and loved too blindly. The man I am now is harder, perhaps lonelier, but infinitely more honest. And that's a trade I can live with. If this story hit you as hard as it hit me to live through it, smash that like button and let me know in the comments. Have you ever discovered a betrayal that changed everything about how you see someone? Subscribe for more real stories that prove truth really is stranger than fiction. Sometimes the people closest to us are the ones we know the least.